Now, when talking about commercial activities, we cannot ignore one other important aspect of commerce, and that is international trade. That is very important. In the in the traditional Chinese culture, international relation has always been an important place, been given an important place in the philosophy of governance. Now, please remember, the philosophy of Confucius is never about one person, one country, one family, but all the countries in the world and all mankind. So the concept of peace and harmony is all-inclusive, not just within one country, but for the whole world. Economics-wise, also, Confucius considered all market participants from all over the world. Therefore, international trade becomes one of the main areas of his policy making. So, from the perspective of individual country, traditional Chinese philosophy promotes an open and welcoming attitude towards foreigners. This is clearly stated in the 9 standard rules of the government in the doctrine of the mean, namely indulgent treatment of foreigners. And this was mentioned in one of the previous lectures. Now, the rationale of this policy must be understood from 2 aspects. Okay, one is related to ethics and the other is economics. According to the principle of Confucius, because the foreigners have come a long way to your country, and being very far away from their home, it is ethically correct to provide them with a special favor. In the doctrine of the mean, the general guidance of dealing with foreigners is as follows: to escort them on their departure and meet them on their coming, to commend the good among them and show compassion to the incompetent. The government of the Zhou dynasty carried out this principle by establishing a position of Special Commissioner of Immigration in order to manage the relationship between China Empire and the peripheral countries. Now, the function of this particular post is to give welcome to foreigners from all over the world. He would order his subordinates to escort them on their departure and meet them on their coming. He also issued passports to foreigners for their traveling. And he will also take care of their provision, such as accommodation, food, nourishment, and so on. By doing so, the host country is able to stimulate mutual trade by exchanging goods. So the ethical rationale also leads to economic rationale. So let's now discuss the economic benefits of international trade in more details. Now, essentially, the rationale of trading is simply resulted from geographical difference of different countries or communities. Certain essential items of life can only be produced or grown in a different region and country. So in order to acquire them, one has to travel all the way to that region to get them. And in doing so, one has to offer something useful for the counterparty in exchange. And there must be mutual gains. So the key word here really is mutuality. Okay, mutuality. Now, because of the historical backdrop of China during the Zhou dynasty, the international trading activity was even more frequent between the many independent states. Now, why do we call it international trade when it was in fact interstate trade within China Empire? I think I mentioned this slightly a little bit before, but let's explain this again. Okay, if we examine the size of Zhou, the Zhou dynasty, is equivalent to the total area of a number of countries, of France, Spain, Sweden, Germany, Finland, Poland, Italy, the UK, Ireland, Austria, Denmark, and Netherlands. The area reached over 1.31 million square kilometers. An equally important feature of the Zhou dynasty is that in Confucius' time, the whole China Empire was consisted of many independent states of different sizes, and all of them had their own military force and political and economic ambition. And there was frequent economic exchange between people in different states and diplomatic interaction. So for this reason, the concept of interstate trade was also one of international trade. So this is what makes the teaching of international trade of Confucius very much relevant to our world today. The Spring and Autumn record shows ancient history for educational purpose. And there is early evidence of economic advancement through trading activities. For instance, during the second year of Duke Min of State of Lu, it is recorded that Duke of Wei promoted international trade for businesses and the artisans. This contributed to the increase of wealth in the country. The production of carriages was most difficult at that time, but the state of Wei was able to dramatically increase the ownership of carriage in a very short span of time. So this represents the increase in wealth of the nation. And the nation doesn't necessarily produce all of the wealth itself, but can accumulate increase of wealth through trading. Now, because this episode was recorded by Confucius, it shows that Confucius recognizes the importance of promoting international trade. There are also evidence on how people promoted international trade through commercial treaties. For example, as recorded in the chapter of Gao Zi in Mencius. During the spring and autumn period, the princes of 7 states held a conference in a place called Kui Qiu. So in their arrangement, item number 5 was to impose 0 restriction on the mutual sale of grain. Now we know that grain was the chief necessity of life, right? It was the most important element of food. So this agreement was to make life necessities available to everyone, at least those in the 7 member states. Mencius approved this agreement because this agreement is necessary to ensure that all the people have access to fundamental life supports. Again, it is also recorded in the spring and autumn that in 562 BC, the princes of 13 independent states made a covenant to promote trade and eliminate monopoly. In particular, the covenant says, all we who covenant together agree not to hoard up the produce of good years and not to shut one another out from advantages we possess. In this particular covenant, the first item refers to grain. Again, the treaty promotes the free trade of life necessities. If any one state hoard up grains during the good year and sell them to other states at a high price during bad year, the people in those states would be hurt, and mutual trust would collapse, and there would be confrontation, and no more free trade. So without free trade, the living standard of the people of all states will necessarily fall. So this would be a lose-lose situation. The second item of that covenant refers to commodities in general. Okay, from natural resources of certain locality to special skills of certain people. Now, again, if one state starts to ban other states from buying these products or services, the sense of protectionism would start to rise, and it would also lead to the outcome of falling living standard of the people of all states. So all of these trade agreements are to ensure the confidence of the market and protect the living standard of all the states, not just one state, but all the states. Although the Spring and Autumn Annal is a history record, it also represents Confucius' own opinion about the way of life. So he recorded these history events in order to express his approval and disapproval of certain principle and the way of life. And it's very obvious that Confucius approved international free trade.